All right, so I wanted to break down a little bit about a concept on like who's at the bottom of society, and that's a really tricky concept because you really can't perceive anybody at being at the bottom of anything because everybody's at the top of their game on whatever level they're on. I mean, all thoughts, all things, all perspectives, all people, all organizations are inherently an aspect of creation, and so there really is no up and bottom. But if you're going to speak in a sense of like a um, a pyramid type structure, historically people in the conspiracy culture say like, okay, you have the Illuminati and you have bloodlines, and they say there's 13 different bloodlines. Okay, this is a concept that many people really don't know too much about when they speak about it. The 13 different bloodlines is basically you're talking about DNA, and there was like I think 7 different races who made up the extraterrestrials who came down to Earth and participated in the creation of humans. And out of those 7 different groups of extraterrestrials, there's supposed to be like 12, 12, 12 different DNA strands. And then the 13th one is humans. So you have 12 different DNA groups who were in the 7 types of extraterrestrials. Then you have the creation of humans, which makes 13. And so that's sort of an analogy when you talk about the Illuminati and say there's 13 different bloodlines, and those 13 different bloodlines makes up 13 different families. And out of those 13 different families, there's different houses within the families. A lot of those families intermix. But I think what it really is being said is each person walking around has various DNA strands within them. So, in fact, an everyday person on the street technically is a part of the Illuminati families because we have the same DNA as them. They may not have human DNA, but we have the DNA that comes from the different groups that came here. So, technically, humans have somewhat of an advantage. Now, a lot of people believe like, okay, the Illuminati, it's an illusion. There is no Illuminati. I don't, I think there is something to the Illuminati thing, but I think it's more of an analogy, But okay, now you have the pyramid structure, and people say that the Illuminati is at the top. Now, like I just said, regular people are the Illuminati. So the Illuminati could be, in a realistic point of view, everyday person's in the Illuminati, but it just depends on where you are in the pyramid structure. If you're at the bottom, you're just a worker, right? You just go to work and pay your taxes. Okay. The people who are average in society usually aren't as conscious as the people at the very, very bottom. Like people living on the streets might have a more of a better perspective of how the world works. They're just not in the worker's position. Then the people at the very top, or the upper people, will have a more in-depth perspective of the people on the streets. So you got like a great majority of people in the middle who really aren't aware of too much, and anytime you deviate out of the structure, you'll realize that it's not really a pyramid, it's just holographic. And there's so many different illusions to structure and society and stuff. I mean, an average person walking the streets is spiritually easy to corrupt. Think about it like this. The average person that goes to work and pays their taxes and stuff, you can make them more morally corrupt, eat quicker and faster than you usually can somebody on the very lower level or somebody at the very top level. There's a lot of people who are homeless on the streets who won't participate in things like, disrespecting children, taking advantage of children, taking advantage of elderly people, uh, cruelty to animals. A lot of people at the lower echelons who just won't do that for any amount of money. Then there's a lot of people in the middle who want to they want to raise to the top quickly, right? But they can't make it up there because the people at the top recognize that their psyche doesn't have the conscious capability to make that jump. There's too many blocks in their way consciously. A lot of people will go into like panic if they really knew more information, and so by their own volition, they're able to be manipulated by the upper top in the capacity that they are in, right? And so, like the people who are conscious people, those are the people who get recognized first by the people at the top. Like if you're some dude and you're just out there on the internet doing conspiracies and stuff and you know what you're talking about, there's going to be a hell of a lot of people who not only don't know what you're talking about, they're going to fight with every inch of their life to not know what you're talking about. But the people down at the bottom in the street, they're going to have a good concept of what you're talking about. They may not have studied as hard as you have, but they're going to have a general concept. Then the people, if there is an Illuminati or whatever, underneath the Illuminati there's like the Committee of 300, which is supposedly like 300 different families who, those are the people behind many of the alphabet, the 3-letter organizations and stuff, the different colleges and stuff on the East Coast. Those people like carry out the marching orders. They've been given the blueprints on what to do, and they just carry it out. Those people might not even really know the things that you know. See, it's kind of funny. The lie is different at every level. And I've discovered this in my research. I've discovered myself being under scrutiny, but under scrutiny, not because the people knew exactly what was going on, but because they were told what to keep out and what not to keep out, but they might not have the whole truth. They might just have a part of it. And they put you under scrutiny, and then you're like, what the fuck, right? But they don't even know the whole story. And then the people above them will know more of the story. Then the people of them will know, above them will know more of the story. So it's really fucked. Excuse my language, but it's really funny. It's true. It's like the ordinary people know nothing. The people at the very, very bottom know a lot more than the ordinary people. Then the people who research and research and research, a lot of times will know more than even people a few steps ahead of them, as far as like, politically, or people who are deep into the mystery schools and secret societies. They only know what they need to know. They're not going to know that much. The only time they know that much is like if their family itself went through a certain situation. Like me with my Jonestown research, I recognize that when I was studying it as a conspiracy, I recognized, well, this wasn't that long ago. So a lot of the families who were ahead of like the whole thing, behind the scenes, they're still around. So they may not be real high up, but they know a lot about it, and then the people way higher than them know it. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's kind of tricky. But there's a lot of different types of zigs and zags when you're talking about conspiracy research and alternative research. And so when you get into your research, like do not take anybody's word for anything. Don't even take my word for anything. Don't take anybody's word for anything. Do the research yourself. If I had taken people's word for everything, I would still be way low compared to my awareness is now. My awareness is so much higher because I saw things that didn't make sense, and I pushed forward and kept questioning it. If you halt or stop to take somebody's word for it, or put somebody on a pedestal, you'll greatly limit yourself. You'll never reach the type of level of research you want. And I mean, the research keeps going. Knowledge is like a never-ending quest. So there's like no, I mean, there's no end of the road. Like, I mean, people learn every day. So, you know, and it's really experience. Um, if you haven't okay, if you're now, there's a difference between alternative researchers and conspiracy researchers. There's a little bit of a difference, not much. But if you haven't directly came into contact with the sorts of stuff you're talking about, then you're not, then you haven't gotten the necessary experience. Okay. Remember that movie Conspiracy Theory with that dude Jerry? Mel Gibson played that guy Jerry. I forget his last name in the movie. I mean, he came into contact with the same people, and he was like, are you guys NASA or whatever? Blah blah blah. But I mean, remember in the movie how when he bought that book Catcher in the Rye, and like those people in that computer room, like he bought the book, and they were all following him and watching him and all this stuff. All right, if he tried to go out and explain that, nobody in the world would fucking believe him. But it was real. I mean, according as far as the movie goes, right? That's what was happening in the movie. That's how it works in the real world. That's how the real world works. All that stuff, all that kind of stuff exists. But it's the average people in the middle who will never be able to conceptualize it. And then the average people in the middle, they're so easy to manipulate and corrupt. I remember there's a real dude named Chip Tatum who was like confirmed CIA by a whole bunch of different sources. He always said, I saw one of his interviews, and he was saying how you have to cover your own ass. The people who like are caught up in all this stuff, they're so easy to corrupt, and they're so good at corrupting others. And so, I mean, you can never believe, when it comes to deep alternative stuff, you can never believe anybody about anything. You got to get your own experience. I mean, one of the groups, there's like a rap group called that was popular in the 90s called Bone Thugs-n-Harmony, and I was listening to their story, and they were rappers, right? They were already making tapes and stuff. They were from Cleveland, Ohio, and they wanted to like be real successful. So they went all the way to California to meet Eazy-E, and they said, we're not coming back. Next time we come back here to the neighborhood, we're going to bring a film crew. And that, to me, is just paramount to what I'm talking about. Not only did they go get the film crew, but they brought Eazy-E back too. They manifested it. They made sure they did it. That's the type of researcher you got to be.